We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. The pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Welcome to European E-Racing and the European E-Racing League, the premier NASCAR league on iRacing for European citizens. Tonight is time for our 7th round in our Next Gen series, which is run at Richmond Raceway, located in Richmond, Virginia, USA. Nicknamed the Action Track, Richmond is one of the shortest and slowest circuits, but the bank turns of 14 degrees makes it a lot faster than the smallest track, Martinsville. So for being a short track, it's quite fast, it's quite technical. As you can see, it's a D-shaped oval, and this track is quite old. It opened up in 1946, and it's 3/4 of a mile long, and the NASCAR record holder is still Jeff Gordon from 2014, I think it was, of 20 seconds and 7/10 of a second. My name is Jonas Force, and I'm here at Eason Studio in Stockholm, Sweden, and I will later hand over to our friends at RaceBot that will do the in-game or in-sim commentating. I will later be back with the interviews and the post-race analysis, but let's start with taking a lap around America's premier short track. We're running with the second place runner right now in the championship, Marcus Hagman, and he is starting out with going quite high into this corner. He waits a little bit. You want to be all the way down to the yellow line here, but he can't really fit the car into that corner there, and into 3 and 4 here we can see this tight line, and with the next gen car you have to be so careful with the entry speed to really get that car to turn in on the short tracks. Not sure why it's so hard to get steering, but tonight will be everything about tire management and taking care of your right side front tire, because every time you go a little bit too hard in here, you will push the tire and it will make you even slower. It make the car turn even worse than it already does. So that will be the key for tonight's race, the tire management of right front, I'd say. Welcome back to European E-Racing. We have 2 races left before this season is over, and yeah, we'll look at the standings in a while, but Linus Broström is having the lead right now in front of Marcus Hagman. that we were running with earlier around this track. We are soon to hand over to our friends at RaceSpot. The qualifying will start at 17:20 or 20 minutes past 5 tonight, and the race will start 5 minutes later from that. The European Eracing League, we are racing this Sunday, and we will have a short little break for 2 weeks, and we will be back in 3 weeks with the final at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So finally we are short track racing here in the European Eracing League. We've been waiting for this all season long. These cars are high downforce and low horsepower in the new package that they are using. So what we've been seeing across this season have been more of pack racing, a lot like the super speedway racing that we were seeing in the Gen 6 car and the Xfinity cars and so on. So finally our drivers are going to use their left foot. They're going to brake a little bit, and that will show a different kind of skill for our drivers. So if you want to join the European Eracing League, check out our Discord, or which you can find on all of our social channels. Twitch, you can find us at European Eracing everywhere, like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. Whichever social media platform you prefer. I think it's time for us to take a little look at Talladega Superspeedway, the last race we were at, and what happened there. To European E-Racing and the European E-Racing League, the premier NASCAR league on iRacing for European citizens.
They're finally going to get the green flag. It's a long, long hold. Linus Brostrom in control of the field, but he hits the gas, and we are going to go green flag racing here at the Talladega Superspeedway. Thomas Anderson joining in. They just get past Tony Uvinen, who's spent, I don't know if you've been noticing this, Stefan, but oh no, he's gone wrong!
Oh!
He's gone wrong! He's got it to the side of Anderson, and Anderson, the 83, into the wall in a big way, I'm afraid. Oh dear, oh dear.
Right here, he goes up a little bit too high, tries to correct that, has a little bit of a slide that he has to catch, and then wobbles back and forth, gets thrown up by the apron into the 83.
But now he might have a friend, although I think Tony Uvinen is just going to have a little bit too much pace for him out on that. Oh dear! Oh dear, oh dear. Well, that is going to be the first caution of the day. It is Alexander Aronson in control of the field. He hits the gas first. Marcus Hagman didn't react nearly as quickly as he needed to there, because Solo was able to get alongside him. Aronson tries to help him though.
Yeah, and now Brostrom.
Oh, no,
It fell back a little bit! Oh my goodness, that has happened!
There's cars everywhere. Daniel Solo at the front spins around. There are cars caught up in that all over the place. Aronson and Stall look like the only ones who have really got away with that unscathed.
That is right here. Not only a big crash, but also championship implications, because Hagman is our current leader.
Daniel Page is going to try and side draft him. He's going to dive to the bottom to try and take the win. They're going to slam into each other. Daniel Page has just got his nose in front. They're side by side to the line. Oh, Brostrom. Has he got it? I think he has. And he has. The 71 Linus Brostrom buys 21 thousandths of a second.
Hey, yeah, I'm great. That was a bit of a snoozer all the way through, but that finish made up for it. That was, even if I'd have been second there, I don't think I would have been too bothered, because that racing towards the line there was just amazing, and I'm just happy I came out first and was able to work the side draft as good as I did.
Linus Brostrom comes home with the lead and a win at Talladega. Yeah, we saw some drama there between Uvinen and Anderson. Both drivers were penalized for both of those accidents on track, leaving Anderson with the hardest one for that retaliation there. He will be banned for the rest of the season and at the premiere of Season 2 in the European E-Racing League. Anyhow, Linus Brostrom is in the lead with 59 points to Marcus Hagman, which means that for Hagman to close the gap to Brostrom, he needs to win this race, and Brostrom cannot be better than 10th, and Hagman needs every point he can on Broström for the last race and the finale. Eric Blix on 3rd position. Except for the Force Esports drivers, the Alcantech NHR by Neiman Racing driver have been leading this all season long until Hagman first took the lead from him, and now Broström is on top. So, but he's only 82 points behind Broström, so he still has the chance to take home this championship with 2 races left. Alexander Arieldsson at 577 points is still a theoretical winner of this season, but he has a long way to go because he is almost 200 points after Linus Broström. Daniel Solo at 5th position right now for Alcantech NHR by Neiman Racing is running close to Arieldsson and still has the chance also to win the championship, of course, with the wind blowing in his direction, but we'll see what happens next for him. Jonas Gunnarsson holds the banner high for Team Superior at 556 points. Kevin Adam is the first non-Swedish driver actually at 7th position from Spain with 501 points. Tony Uvinen at 8th place right now with 490. Robert Erling at 9th for Force Esports Academy with 473 points. And Norbert Leitner of Hungary for Wannabe SRT Yellow at 461 points. So the top 10 is theoretical winners of this season, but my bet is on the top 3 right now because of the points differences between them. So will be this interesting show-off between these 3. Here are the rest of your favorite drivers this season long. A lot of drivers have been showing up for the European E-Racing Premier season, and now it's just the finalists left, more or less. Force Esports is the leading team in the European E-Racing League, followed by Alcantech NHR by Neiman Racing, and then Force Esports Academy at 3rd position right now. At 4th, we got Wannabe SRT Yellow, and Alcantech NHR by SimLab is positioned at 5th right now. Team Superior rounds up the top 6, followed by Rising Star Motorsports at 7th position. Then we got the Wannabe SRT Black Team at 8th position, and the Alkalites at 9th, and Nebula Esports at 10th position. So we get some. Anyhow, let's check at the prices that the drivers are competing about. From Cooler Master, we got first prize the ML360 Lucian and the Master Fan MF120 Halo 3-in-1 one. And from Logitech to the winner, we got the Pro Series gaming headset, the Pro Series gaming mouse, and the G240 cloth gaming mouse pad. For the second place, the second place wins the Master Box of Cooler Master and a headset from Logitech, the Pro Series gaming headset. Third position gets the Pro Series gaming mouse from Logitech, and from Cooler Master he will receive the Master Air MA 624 Stealth, and the 4th and 5th finishers get the MM730 gaming mouse. Let's take a short little break and we will be right back. Alright, we are back at the studio and we only have 4 minutes left to the qualifying runs here at Richmond Speedway. Richmond is a short track, as we've been talking about a little bit in this early beginning, and we are looking into a race that we are not going to pit for fuel, but the tires will run out before the tank will do, so we will see different kinds of tire strategies, I'd say. I mean, if you're in the lead 5, in the top 5, track position will be quite useful to keep, so you won't pit for tires if you don't really need to. And if the field narrows down to about 10 or 15 cars, yeah, you can be a lot more riskier when you're pitting. But since we have limited tire sets, you also want to keep one set of tires till the very end, when everything will be at stake. So we will see the last of the these last two. Yeah, let's take a lap around this track again and look at the different lines that you can run. If you get a car on the inside of you here, you can actually overtake on the outside. If you put your car in a very deep position, you'll do that by braking a lot later, carrying a more speed because you're going higher. You don't have to use your steering wheel as much, and then you will block the other driver from driving all the way up to the wall, as we see Hagman does here. If you can't do that, he won't bring as much speed into the next corner, and he will have to dive down and brake earlier, and that's how you can carry more speed in the exit of the corner and actually pass on the outside. But I would recommend to try to dive into the inside, brake late, and get the shorter line, and then get cleared on the outside to pass them by. So yeah, we will see the one of the last face-offs of this season tonight, and my 3 picks for the championship is Marcus Hagman, as we ran with, Eric Blixt and Linus Broström. For this race, I believe we can see a lot of Kevin Adam. Norbert Leitner have been fast all season long, and Alexander Arelsson is really fast at short tracks of the Swedes, I'd say. On the next page, we'll see a lot of some more drivers that I believe can be really fast here. It's Dominik Lukomski, Gabriel Stö, of course, Oystein Walsh, if we get him into this race. Will also be really fast drivers. Even Daniel Sola, as we saw in the first page, can be a real challenger here. He's an aggressive driver. He really knows when to put his nose in where it actually matters. Anyhow, it's time for us to hand over this broadcast to our friends at Race Spot, and we'll see each other in a while.
Hello everybody and welcome to Richmond for the penultimate round of the European E-Racing League here for 2021. We've had 6 rounds down and we've got just 2 remaining in this championship now, which is hotting up and coming to a great finale here in the last couple of races. We've got this race here at Richmond tonight, a short circuit, and then a mile and a half to end it off in 3 weeks' time at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's going to be very exciting indeed. We've got Linus Broström currently leading the championship, and he's really taken a step forward after that Talladega race where he navigated the chaos well to end up taking a victory in that one and taking charge of this championship. It's wonderful to be along here for this championship once again. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Justin Prince here for this race. Welcome along, Justin. It's good to have you here, and thoroughly looking forward to this race. Richmond is kind of one of those circuits where I'm never quite sure if we can quite count it as a short circuit or not, but I think we just about can. but I do enjoy it. I have to say, it's a nice circuit, and I think we'll see some good racing, certainly some dynamic racing throughout the night.
I think so too, because when it comes to the action track, this is the type of facility where, compared to some of the other short tracks on the schedule when it comes to Real World NASCAR Cup Series action, this is more so the rhythm track out of all of them, where you need to be able to hit your marks precisely, and it's not just simple as hitting hard on the brakes, rounding the corner. You need to be able to know which line you need to take, how to be able to attack the bottom of the racetrack in particular, and in some cases, you may be able to get that outside line working. A couple drivers were able to do so throughout the year along the very top of the racetrack with some of the grip levels that are up there. So it's about making sure you get those preferences down and finding out exactly where the speed's going to be. But in turn, this is also going to be interesting with this type of car for today, because a lot of drivers have been experimenting with what gearing you can use, because in the Gen 6 car, you just stay in fourth. But of course, now there's an extra gear to think about, right? So it's the matter of, do you use an upshift? Do you downshift and stay in fourth? How do you handle those shifts are going to be so critical in how you handle the gearing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a minefield for everybody, and a learning curve for everybody as well, I think. So who can tackle that particular challenge best is going to be the real key to victory here this afternoon. Currently, Alexander Aronson has just taken the top spot here in the qualifying session. We've only got 5 minutes. These guys only got a couple of laps to get themselves sorted out and get themselves into a good shape, but that was out of shape, I'm afraid, for the 27 of Daniel Adam. Straight away loose on the entry into turn number 1 and straight into the wall, I'm afraid to say. So already presenting the challenges of this circuit to us as we look at the 33 as well of Jonas Gunnarsson, who was just beginning his first lap, or the first lap that's second lap, excuse me. He's in third position at the moment, but qualifying in these races never too important. It's one of those circuits where you can overtake fairly easily, and it's a fairly long race as well, 200 laps to make the difference. But either way, getting yourself off to a good start and getting yourself up towards the front will be very good for particularly the championship contenders who want to stay out of trouble early on.
I actually slightly disagree when it comes to the importance of qualifying, because when it comes to dirty air, Richmond is the type of racetrack where you can be hampered by it, especially with these types of stock cars. However, you can make passes if you're able to find that preferred group. Sometimes being able to use the middle line if need be in traffic and pinch the drivers on down below you and get a better run off the corner. That gearing's also going to be critical to make passes. But the main thing to try and make moves is stay out of trouble with the air competitors, right? Because there's a chance of attrition. Even with the amount of drivers expected to take the green flag today, there could be trouble at any certain point. You need to be ready to make evasive action and be able to avoid any potential trouble, to avoid significant damage to your race car. So that's also going to be very effective, as well as the strategies, as talked about during the pre-race.
That is very true, as Broström, the championship leader, just gets up towards the front with Blicht, who's just behind at the moment, the 95. There's a lot of implications that we'll try and get through as we go on with the race here this evening, and that is a slide that's been going on for a very long time for Daniel Solo, and he's, well, I was just about to say he's just about caught it, but ends up in the wall, I'm afraid, for him, so that's his qualifying over. Number 12 car coming out of the final corner. This is Marcus Hagman, who was looking in a good place in this championship heading into Talladega, but got caught up in that big accident down the back straight, and yeah, that was really the end of his race. He dropped down after that and ended up losing a whole heap of points, and it couldn't even count as his drop round either, so he did lose 65 points in this championship fight to his main rival Linus Broström, who's now 59 points up in front here. Justin, we've got a whole set of championship implications. It's going to be very difficult to get through them all here today, because they've all got a lot of ifs and buts and asterisks within them. However, yeah, it's certainly Broström in control at the moment. I think we can safely say that.
That you can definitely say, because essentially, for those just tuning in to help explain that, if he finishes 7th or better while outscoring Marcus Hagman, his Academy member, by at least 10 points, while being outscored by Eric Blixt by 12 points or less, he clinches the championship. You may be wondering, okay, how does someone outscoring you clinch a championship? Well, that's where the drop weeks come into play, where if he gets outscored by more than that, that essentially changes what the drop's going to be. So in our words, it's the scenario where for Broström, the least he can score is 96 points no matter what at the finale currently, thanks to his draw. Max is 160, so his lead is currently going to be either way 165 plus, but it's all going to be important to be able to survive past this starting grid.
It is indeed. Let's take a look at who is where as we line up for 200 laps here at the Richmond circuit. It's going to be a very, very good race indeed. And interestingly, we've got Marcus Hagman down in 10th position. We'll have a look at that in a few moments' time, but that is going to put him in the danger zone for this particular race. So we're going to have to watch out for that. Just having a look at who is where. Alexander Arvidsson, who took the opening kind of times. He was fastest straight off of the bat, but wasn't able to be displaced. So second place Linus Broström, despite his best efforts. Eric Blix is going to be in third, Gunnarsson alongside him. Then Gabriel Storr, who got spun around a couple of weeks ago while in contention for the race win at Talladega. And then we have in sixth position Andrei Solander ahead of Daniel Adam. Dominic Sawicki is in eighth position ahead of Robert Erling. Marcus Hagman, I just mentioned, 10th position for him, very much in the danger zone. Kim Johansson 11th ahead of Daniel Solo. Eric Lundberg and Rickard Allard are going to be lining up on the 7th row together. And then finally the 8th row is Bertrand Fournier and Tony Uvanen as well, lining up, bringing up the rear for this race here today. Coming off the back of Talladega, this championship has been really thrown wide apart, but we've still got some familiar faces up towards the front with the likes of Arvidsson, who led an awful lot of laps last time around, or last race I should say, on his way to a third placed finish. We've obviously got championship leader Broström up there, third place in the championship, Blicht as well, despite the fact he's not won a race yet this year. He has been doing very well, so we've got a good race in prospect here, and high stakes as well, Justin.
Very high stakes indeed to be able to battle for the Drivers' Championship. And keep in mind the Team Championship side of things is also fairly close, separated by around 50 points between Ford Esports and Elkintech NHR by Nyman Racing. It's been very tight amongst those respective groups with the consistency shown by their drivers, but that consistency is going to be also important to keep up by the end of the night, especially with such a challenging racetrack here at Richmond.
Through 3 and 4 we go then, behind the pace car, and it might well be the last time we see that truck out front here today. It may well not be also at the same time, because we do have cautions, of course. If somebody going around, we're going to have another pace lap, by the way, by the looks of things. Yep. So there'll be another couple of moments for these guys to sort themselves out. But yeah, let's see if we do indeed get any cautions, or indeed we stay green throughout the whole way. We had a couple at Talladega, 1 or 2 at Pocono as well, so let's see how this race goes with regards to that. But we've had some very good racing this season. We've had a lot of drivers getting to the end of races as well, which is obviously what we like to see. Not many people throwing in the towel and taking an early bath, which is fortunate. By the way as well, you can't run more than 10% down on the actual leader, so if you do go more than 20 laps down here tonight, then you will have to come into pit lane and retire. Out of turn 4 we go then, and Alexander Arvidsson in control of the field, wasn't waiting around for anybody there, because the green flag is in the air and he is going to take charge of this race into 1 and 2 for the first time. Linus Broström giving him a wide berth for those first couple of corners. Blix not really getting involved either. It's a spread out first few cars at the moment. Broström already working that lane slightly higher up than Arvidsson to try and get an advantage, and he already has, look.
Yeah, that time it looked like Alexander just elected to back on off. Broström able to get that second line working to keep it to the quarter panel. Just struggling to want quarter exit to be able to get himself a good run without approaching that wall. This could last a little while because it looks like Broström's got the strength, but it's the problem of getting fully clear along that outside group without going too hard in the corner with these next-gen cars.
Yeah, you do have to be very careful. We've already seen some victims of that in qualifying. Blick now getting involved on the inside line as well. Broström stuck out wide. It's not quite like Martinsville where you're going to be stuck out wide and you're going to lose a whole heap of positions, but you certainly don't want to be stuck out there if it's not the advantageous place to be in. Once again, trying to get clear, and we just saw Gunnarsson showing the disadvantage of being on the outside line with that little scrape on the wall coming out of turn 4. So that was a close moment for him, but he gathers it up, and the the two for second place continue to battle side by side. Two championship contenders going at it, absolutely hammer and tongs, and still nothing to separate them. Absolutely locked together right now, and neither of them can get clear by the looks of things. Into 1 and 2 again.
Yeah, it looks like Broström just seems committed to that second line. The problem is he just can't get into a good rhythm. The other drivers at least seem to have figured things out short run wise to be able to be fast at this mark. But here's the problem with that, Ewan. If you go too fast, especially at a track like Richmond, you will burn off the tires by about lap 20, lap 25, and that's when it usually falls back into the tire saver's hands. So you essentially don't want to go full 199% in the corners because you're going to fall off like a brick.
You absolutely are, and we've seen a lot of those strategic races at Richmond in real life in the past, which is very much enjoyable. Let's hope that we get one of those tonight here as well, because that would be very good. Side by side once again for 5th position here, Daniel Adam holding off Gunnarsson just for the moment, with Kim Johansson battling with, or just watching on from behind. Solander and Hagman go side by side just in the background of this shot as well. And talking of the championship, Linus Broström, despite the fact he did just lose out to the 95, as things stand, he would clinch the championship here with 1 round to go, because he's outscoring Marcus Hagman by 10 points or more, and he's not letting Blix outscore him by 12 points or more, and they're in the top 7. So all of these things are starting to fit together for him for the moment, but there's still over 190 laps to go, so absolutely no reason to get too excited about that at the moment, as we continue to watch Kim Johansson come under fire from Jonas Gunnarsson.
Yeah, and a lot of traffic starting to build up as a little bit too strong to the corner there for Johansson having to get off the gas. That's not how you want to enter these corners or exit those corners, to where you're so high up you have to back off out of turn 2, because that wall's going to come out and catch you if you push too hard, and all because of that. He's starting to struggle a little bit, but the problem is, for the rest of the drivers, they can't capitalize because they're fighting like cats and dogs back there, to the point where they're nearly hitting each other. That 33 Gunnarsson's got damage, and that's opened up the bottle for everyone else to try and push is near trouble.
There was very nearly contact there as Hagman, that was one of the cars just getting extremely tight. No way through to, or no way to get any kind of turning going on there for Gunnarsson, and he's going for the over and under by the looks of things down the inside into 3 and 4, and might well be able to get this done. But Hagman not giving up, and once again the car on the inside just pushing completely up the racetrack, and Hagman briefly into the door there, but fortunately everybody gets away with it there and through into 1 and 2 again. Hagman is clear of this, so while he is working his way through traffic, the fact that he qualified 10th has not helped him at all, and that's to your point that you made in qualifying. You said it's actually going to be quite important here, because it's not going to be very advantageous to be stuck in traffic, and that's being shown absolutely with Marcus Hagman now. He's clearly got a quicker car than some of these guys around him, but he's taken a good while to get through only 3 cars so far.
Yeah, the difference is around 2 to 3 tenths per lap with drivers in traffic. Compare that to the number 4 of Johansson, who has gotten back to a rhythm just up the road. He's running in the 5s. He's running quicker than the leaders. There's trouble at the back.
Looks like Fournier has gone round, I'm afraid, and the first caution of the day has already been thrown. The end of 13 laps of racing here tonight. It looks like the number 6 car has indeed gone around. Fournier, not sure if that was on his own or not, because he was battling with Tony Uven a little bit earlier on. Eric Lundberg back there as well. Let's have a look at what happened to him.
Yeah, I think Lundberg's going to have to apologize, because this is the battle for second to last on the track, and just dove for the hole and just drove into his left rear quarter panel, right up into the wall. Yes, the door was open, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind the speeds, and he also missed the bottom there. So hard contact already, and after only a few laps, this may open up the door for maybe a strategy call, but it could be too early with the 3 tire sets in the pits.
Oh yeah, I was just about to ask you that, really. 200 lap race. It's not like these guys have got all of the tyre sets in the world for them to use. They do have a limited amount, and so is this too early to be burning off some of your tyres? I mean, I said this at I think it was the Nashville race, the round 2. You know, some of these guys coming in very, very early. I was wondering, are these guys going to have enough tyre sets to get to the end? But it was very clean and green to the end of the race, and so it ended up being okay. But it looks like some of those towards the back, and Sawicki, Uven and Fournier have all come in. Possibly sensible choices from them, but most of the guys staying out seems to be the consensus here.
Yeah, for what I can tell, even those drivers who all just dunked down to the pit lane, for reference sake, all just took fuel other than the damage repair going on for the number 6. And the reason for that, I think, too, is being able to push their fuel stint longer, because you have to keep in mind with these cars in some of the testing for the next-gen car, in the real-world testing, I should say, the fuel tanks have reportedly pushed up a little bit higher than the Generation 6 cars by about another gallon or so, for reference, so it can push the fuel runs further. But in theory, you want to be able to try and stretch it long, because here's the problem. You get a caution in the middle of the pit cycle, let's say. Guess what? You're 2 laps down.
Yeah. It's going to be a big problem, so you've got to be careful. So 17 laps going to be complete at the end of this one. We should be going green, not this time, but the next. On lap 19, we should be able to see the green flag waving back in the air once again. So it's Alexander Aroldsson who's currently leading this race ahead of Eric Blichton, Linus Broström. The three of them were having a good fight early on in the race, but it was further down where the entertainment ended up being throughout that first green flag run. Marcus Hagman was making his way through the order, and he's made 3 places into 7th position, but as things stand, it doesn't really matter, because Linus Broström would be taking this championship home, and with 1 round to go, that is very impressive indeed. We'll also try and keep an eye on the team's championship as well, because that's just in reference just before the race got underway. It's very close in that championship. 49 points separating Falls Esports and Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing, so worth keeping an eye on if we can, but we've got enough going on with the Drivers' Championship, to be honest with you. It's very much up in the air, and there's a lot of calculators flying everywhere and all sorts, so we'll try and keep on top of it all. But it's going to be a complicated one, to say the least. The lights are off on the top of the pace truck, and for the first time today, it's going to be pulling in for a restart this time around. Lap 19 about to begin, and Alexander Aroldsson doing exactly what he did on the first run. Green flags back in the air, and Linus Broström making a great start there, straight into 2nd place, catching Blicht on his heels.
Very in sync there, let's put it that way, when it comes to that bottom row, and that can be an advantageous part of these restarts as this race goes on tonight. For Blix, though, the trouble is just trying to get a pass done on that 16 machine, who just was caught sleeping by that Insignis from down below him.
Side by side at the moment for 3rd place going on. Gabriel Storr trying to get through all at the same time in the 16 car. He came tantalisingly close to winning at Talladega. He was leading with 1 lap to go, but got turned around in turn 2, and in the end he wasn't able to take home the victory. Looking to do a bit of redemption on this occasion as he goes past Eric Blicht into 3rd position, and now gets onto the back of the championship lead. And Linus Broström looking quite good actually as the 16 car early on in this run. All about getting yourself back up to speed, as Bertrand Fournier back in the pit lane once again. Not entirely sure what that's for, whether he picked up damage again or what's going on there, but he's going to find himself a lap down.
Yeah, remember that 6 machine took a lot of damage, will come out of the pit lane and be lapped. In fact, this time around, already several laps down as a result of some of the damage repair done. I'm curious if that plays a factor, though. In this grouping you're watching, look where he's coming out of the pit lane, nearly into Adam's quarter panel, and that just messed up Johansson's run a little bit out of the corner and held him up.
He has indeed. He's trying to fall through the field as efficiently as possible here as Fournier, trying not to get in anybody's way, but obviously he's got his own race to try and get done here at the same time, as Lundberg and Allard go side by side briefly there, but Allard stays in front. And there he is, diving down to the inside through 3 and 4, diving up the racetrack there. We've seen a lot of that into 3 and 4, not entirely sure why, but the driver of the car on the inside always pushing far up the racetrack, and we've already seen a lot of near misses. Obviously it came a bit too close for comfort with Lundberg and Fournier a little bit earlier on, but a lot of difficulties for those on the inside going into 3 and 4.
Trouble behind them. Contact for 4th. Sawicki got dived underneath by the number 84, and Tony nearly spun him out into turn 3.
Wouldn't be the first time we've seen it going through there, but Sawicki has found himself now in 15th position, the final car on the lead. That you might be able to just see them in the background of this shot, but yeah, we've seen a lot of close racing so far. A little bit too close for comfort as well, considering how many laps we have to go as well.
Yeah, that's the main thing to think about. This is a long race. 200 laps may not sound like a lot for the lap time scene, but it's one which can tucker you out. Here's what I was referring to. Again, the battle at the back of the field, a dive to the inside, similar situation to the first caution, except this time it was saved. Just didn't get anywhere close to that yellow line to the bottom to be able to avoid the contact, and ends up causing that trouble. You also had the outside car starting to arc it on and not expecting the dive.
It was a very strange moment there, and a good save, to be fair, to everybody for holding that one together. And we stay green here as we're about to complete 27 laps of this race. Alexander Aronson still leads, and he's looking fantastic at the front of this field. Over a second to Linus Broström. Gabriel Storr not too far behind. Eric Blicht is here as well. Daniel Adam just after that. Then we've got Johansson, Hagman, Selander, Gunnarsson, Solo, Erling. They're all here, and you can see side by side just in the background. Bit of a mistake going on. Gunnarsson versus Solo into 3 and 4 right now. This is the kind of thing we expect to see all night long, really. It's going to be good fighting between them all, but Blix is looking pretty good. Storr got off to a roaring start on this restart, but now he's coming back down to earth a little bit by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think Broström's just trying to keep the tires cool, not really pushing too hard compared to the 24, who's really trying to run off into the sunset. Keep in mind, before the caution flag, the tires were starting to fall back in Broström's direction. So essentially, this is going exactly what Linus wants this to play out. Allow the leader to run and then reel him back on in as the tires heat back up and wear on out more so. And I think everyone else is picking up on this and just is being content for now on riding along and waiting to see if anyone slips up.
And let's not forget, Aronson and Broström are champion or teammates in this race. There's only 3 championship contenders left, so if Broström needs the help, Aronson will certainly provide it to him in terms of trying to win this championship, because if even in this situation right now, Broström will be walking home with the championship here with still 1 race to go. So, you know, there could be help on the way for Broström here. He's got a teammate up there. Unlike Hagman, I guess they are technically on the same team. Falls Esports Academy, Hagman is part of. So they are sort of on the same team. But, you know, Broström may well get the help from Aronson, particularly if Blicht is trying to challenge his championship at the moment. And speaking of the 95, he's gone through into 3rd place.
Blixt is starting to do what he needs to do, at the very least early going. Keep up toe-to-toe with Broström. Try and force him to try and pick up his tempo. If Blixt can get him to push on up, force Broström to burn up his equipment, Blixt might be able to take advantage. It's just a matter of making sure he doesn't burn up his tires in turn. So if you can pressurize that 71, might help things out. By the way, some of that traffic starting to pick up the tempo we've seen with that number 6, while Johansson is having to give a little bit of a higher arc to make sure there's no contact with the lap traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of a dangerous moment always when traffic is coming through, but you can just see with the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen right now how good Aronson is looking. 2 seconds in front of the field, and the rest of them are all within a second of each other, battling away. It's starting to string out slightly at the front of the field, but the guys behind Storr here on your screen is starting to close up a little bit. Adam, Johansson, Selander all close together, and Selander getting a good run off of 2 there, but not close enough for one of those dives into 3 by the looks of things. And a couple of the cars you can see trying to follow that all-important yellow line here at Richmond, and it looks like Selander's doing one of the best jobs of anybody down the inside, maybe into 1, but he seems to be exercising a bit of caution right now, which is probably a good thing considering what we've seen earlier on in this race.
To correct you again, that's the number 6, who is several laps down, mind you, after his repairs. So, who is becoming a Hornets, the bee in the bonnet almost, in regards to that situation. But want to bring up the good point of being able to get to the yellow line, because there's 2 different methods drivers will have in that regard. Some prefer to take it a flat entry and almost double apex it. Charge hard into turn 1, rise up a little bit for the apex of 1 and 2, charge back hard against the yellow line for the exit of turn 2. There's also the wide arc coming in, where you try and go wider on entry, arc it on down, approaching the middle of the apex, hit that yellow line throughout the corner, and then exit as hard as you can towards the high line. It's all down in part to preference there, to be able to figure out which line is better for you as a driver. And in some cases, if you get it right, you can make passes and set yourself up for this type of situation back here. Or you can force your opponent to the wall.
Yeah, that is always a tactic, I suppose. So Hagman out on the outside there, and he's back to where he started in this race, 10th position, and looks like he's struggling a little bit outside line, trying not to lose another place to Rickard Allard, who's following on behind, but going to hold on just for now, or is he going a little bit wide? But that's all part of the plan, and he's going to hold on to 10th position. Yeah, as you say, it's a very dynamic racetrack, and I do enjoy it at Richmond. It's a very, very good one for racing indeed, as we've seen so far in this race. More side-by-side battling a little bit further down the order, with the 27 car trying to hold on at the moment. Daniel Adam being pressured here by Kimi Hansen, and just a little bit of a shunt there into the rear end of that car up in front. But the Ford not able to take any advantage out of that, and will continue on. That is actually Solander behind him this time, so no lap cars involved. I don't know where Fornere's quite got to, but he's a little bit further away from where he was before, as Johansson heads down the inside and Daniel Adams swings wide. Not too much of a contest there, but he does have to be careful because this is turning into a rather large group, and he doesn't want to end up in the back of it in a moment.
Looks like Adam thought about a possible peak, and keep in mind Daniel Adam, known for being a well-regarded streamer on the iRacing service, working with one of the setup shops on the platform, shows some good speed. The problem is, Adam seems to be struggling mid to long run here with some of the lines he took, to the point where Solander's now taking advantage of that to dive to the inside as well.
He is indeed, and here we go again into 1 and 2. Adam on the outside line, Solander, but look at the speed around, rolling around there, although on the exit not quite executed as well as he would have wanted, and Gunnarsson's going to follow straight through. Daniel Solo as well, by the looks of things, and this is exactly where Marcus Hagman should be, and he should be gaining a position on Daniel Adam at the moment, but he's continuing to fall back. 11th position for the current second place man in the championship. It's all starting to fall apart for Marcus Hagman in the number 12 as these guys continue on around 1 and 2 once again. Daniel Adam has fallen to the back of this group. We just want to bring up the point of tyres that we were mentioning a little bit earlier on. You only get 4 sets for these or for all of the races that aren't the finale at Charlotte, because that is a little bit of a longer affair, so doing that on 4 sets tyres would be almost cruel. But this is going to be a 4-set tyre race, and already I've noticed I think more than a second's worth of drop-off in terms of tyres. We're approaching the 1/4 distance in this race. Are we going to see some pit stops in the next 5 laps or so? Those guys trying to get a bit of an undercut maybe and go a bit quicker on new tyres. We've already got Hagman in.
I'm surprised I'm seeing pit stops actually right now, because normally the call that's the quickest strategy is trying to limit the amount of pit stops. I'm absolutely surprised to see drivers pitting after only this many amount of laps to come in for a set of tires, because this is a massive gamble that will cost them 1 up to 2 laps here. So, in other words, this is the play. If you're those two who just pit, you need this race to go green. If it doesn't go green, you're in massive trouble here.
Absolutely. It does need to stay green. We're on lap 47 at the moment, and Alexander Aronson with a 4-second lead out front at the moment. Interesting to see that both of those cars are Force Esports Academy cars, so there's clearly a plan there. And the team have clearly taken that on. I just wonder if Aronson and Brostrom are going to go down the same line, because they're also Force Esports cars. If they indeed are not a part of the same team quite, they are still Force Esports cars, and they're in a Discord channel together. I can see that they're chatting to each other. So is there clearly a team orchestrated plan there by the 4 of them to go for that strategy, or is this just a poor call being made? You can already see though the tyre advantage that these guys have got. I believe that was one of them on the back of Blitz right now. We're looking at the battle for second place, and you can see there's no question about the fact that you can, gain a lot of time with the new tyres on, but are those pit stops just going to be too costly is the question, as we've got the car stopped and the caution already. Exactly what you were fearing for them has happened immediately on lap 50.
Why in the world did he just stop on the race? I'm not sure what just happened here. I think he might have almost hit somebody in the back end and then had something happen when he clipped the apron. But the thing is, you don't stop on the racetrack to get the caution flag out here. I don't get it.
Yeah, it seems to...
Full stop.
stopped on the racetrack there and brings out the caution for the second time here today. Might get in a bit of trouble for that, in all honesty, but we'll wait and see. Lap 51, and it's going to be pit stops everywhere by the looks of things. Arulson comes in, the 82, going to stay out there of Robert Erling, and that is a sensible call, you might say, but he's 2 laps down at the moment, so he's only going to get himself to 1 lap down. We'll see if Hagman can get the wave around as well and get back onto the lead lap, but exactly what you feared for those two, no matter what we think of how the caution came out, that exactly what you were fearing for Hagman and Erling has happened almost immediately, and they've already been nearly trapped a lap down. I don't think they're quite going to get trapped, although Uven has stayed out, so he might well do in the end. We'll wait and see, but it's not a good situation for them to be in.
I'm absolutely stunned about that decision they made. That's the only way to put it. Hagman, believe, just got the lucky dog. He's going to get lucky here, but it's a one-stop under logical situations. You don't end up saying, okay, I'm going to make this work with 2 extra pit stops. You're not going to make up the full time delta for that in the first place. I'm just mind-boggled about that decision-making to be able to try and go for that strategy, because now you're put in a box now where if you're the 82, you're a lap down, even with the wave around, and Hagman has lost all his track position. I'm just absolutely confused about it.
Yeah, it is a confusing decision. Hagman is currently in 8th position. He's got the lucky dog, as you're saying. He's gone around, but I would have thought he would rejoin at the back of the train and not in the middle of it, which he's done at the moment. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for him, but either way.
He should go to the back.
Yeah,
he should go to the back.
He should do. He's in 8th at the moment, but he should be filtering down to 14th, which is where the last car on the lead lap, Tony Uvenen, is currently making a pit stop, and it's quite a long one as well for Uvenen, so we'll see if he can stay on the lead lap actually here as the lights are about to go off. But either way, we're about to go green flag racing sooner rather than later once again. But 150 laps to go, 145-ish laps to go. Is it going to be green flag, sorry, not green flag. Is it going to be everybody going to the end from here, or are they going to split the rest of this race in half? I guess it does kind of depend on what happens with the cautions.
Well, that's going to be the big thing for one. That's going to dictate when you come in for the tire sets. But the second thing that's going to be the most important thing to consider is this is still technically going to be a one-stop, in my theory, where you could split this race up the middle, strategy-wise. So it minimizes the amount of time the longest stint will probably end up being. But I still see this, if it goes green, being a one-stop to make sure you're good to go on tires as well as fuel.
I mean, they've only got 2 sets of tyres remaining anyway, so it's not like we're going to have millions more pit stops. The lights are still on at the at the top of the safety car. Salander and Sawicki came in last time around, by the way. So we still do have 14 cars on the lead lap, but they're not all in where we were before. Salander and Sawicki indeed do get out of the pit lane now, and we're going to be getting ready to go racing because the lights indeed finally do go off, and we're finally able to get formed up here with 145 laps to go and get ready for a restart. Arulson and Brostrom are going to be on the front row together. Blicht is alongside him, and it really needs to get through and try and win this race. In terms of getting through on Brostrom, if he wants to indeed clinch this championship, or at least keep this championship alive, I should say. But let's wait and see. Arulson, for the 3rd time, is going to hit the gas out of turn number 4 and take a nice lead into 1 here once again. He's done it a couple of times before, and it's been executed perfectly once again. Brostrom holds on to 2nd, Blicht in 3rd, with Storr, who's always quick out of the gates, in 4th position, already looking to try and get through on the 95. Johansson in 5th, with Daniel Adam in 6th. And we look at the battling going on a little bit further down. Another good restart from everybody. Arulson taking the lead once again.
I'm absolutely shocked about that pace in the 24, let's put it that way, because he just did not fall off like I thought he might have had the potential to, compared to Brostrom and company, where he was running up to 3/10 quicker per lap. So I'm wondering what the play is there, but there's trouble in turn 4.
Oh, it looks like there might be a car around Allard, and Uvenen might have been involved. There's multiple cars involved here, actually. Spun around there. Allard is trying to get going again. Dearie me, there's a lot going on back there, and somehow we stay in green. So I'm not entirely sure how that's happened, but we've had a couple of laps under green. I thought we were going to go yellow there, but reason we are carrying on here once again. Allard and Hagman, Uvinen, all going to be not very pleased about that. Championship contender, the number 12, caught up in that one. Didn't quite see what happened, but very bizarre not to see a yellow for it.
Yeah, usually that's around the point where you get that trigger, since there was someone around right next to other cars. But we keep on going is the main thing. I think that may have been the situation, though, where turn 3 entry seems to be the trouble spot for these cars, at least for these drivers today, where if you're trying to aim for the bottom for a pass and you miss the bottom, you're taking somebody around with you, unfortunately, in this situation, in this type of a race, and it's now happened a few times.
It has indeed, and it seems to be tricky for everybody, really. It's not just one singular team or driver who's been caught out. Everybody being caught out by that one, as we see Johansson going a little bit wide, trying to get a bit of a run, but in the end Adam is the one with the head of steam going into 3 and 4, but not able to get through at the moment. They come across the line once again. 61 laps are going to be marked complete of this 200 lap race here at Richmond, and it's still Linus Brostrom who's going to be clinching this championship from second place at the moment. He's not being outscored by Blicht at all, and he's outscoring Hagman comfortably as things stand, so he will be going home with that one as it stands, but there's still a long way to go. Daniel Adam applying the pressure to the number 4 at the moment, but biding his time just for now in this long train being created by the 71 out front.
Yeah, just trying to find a way to build up that run is the main thing. Adam looks like similar to the last run on a fresher set of tires. Good on the short run, especially on entry, charging those corners a little bit harder compared to his other competitors. Doing decent on corner exit as well. So I think at this point, it's just a matter of Adam keeping the rhythm up, and it's almost to where he's reaching Johansson too fast, where he's checking up on corner exit, and it's burning up his tires more, having to bobble to get out and check up onto the brakes again, and it's costing him time and a chance to be able to make the pass, so it's keeping him trapped, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You do need to, it's not all about just being quicker and then being able to get through very easily. It is all about using that in the right way, otherwise you're not going to be able to get through on any racetrack, never mind an oval, so you do have to be a little bit smart with it. But as you can see, the purple car just going through the bottom of his shot there. Alexander Harrelson still leading this one, and he was very impressive in the first run. You mentioned it a moment ago. 4 seconds of a lead before that caution came out, and he just wasn't slowing down at any point. It was very impressive to see.
Well, he was one of the quickest drivers in practice, especially in clean space. A 21.8 was his quickest time in practice. He's been running in the same ballpark in terms of tempo. Only a couple tenths fall off, 4 tenths total compared to the 5, 6, 7 tenths the rest of the field has been having to handle with. He's just taking advantage of the clean air, but also just has this track planned out and rhythmed out near perfectly, where he's arcing it, using that double apex mark, and that arc mark, I should say, perfectly. Just knows the exact way to handle the rhythm and just be able to time it up to be able to maximize the RPM. Some of the other drivers are a couple miles an hour slower, I've noticed, out of turn 2 to the entrance of turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting it right here at Richmond, of course, and getting it right at the moment. Daniel Adam, who's just got through on Kimi Johansson there for 5th position. So 68 laps complete here at Richmond. It's been a good race so far. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in a few moments' time with 130 more laps here at Richmond. Welcome back to the European E-Racing League's penultimate round here at Richmond, where we've just had a change for second position as Eric Blitz gets through on Linus Broström, the 95 in front of the 71, as they're in traffic right now. While you were away in that commercial break, Justin, we had a few problems for Daniel Adam as well. We saw a little bit. He's now down in 8th position.
And got significant damage in turn. Keep in mind, Adam just got really loose coming off of turn 2, which can happen if you go too hard on that right rear, in particular on the corner exit, too hard on the gas, overcorrected hard into the safer barrier, absolutely demolished his right front fender. A great job by the rest of the field we've seen to evade as more trouble with some of the traffic.
That was very, very close for Linus Broström there, who nearly got into the back of one of the cars getting lapped there. Could be Rickard Allers, that one, with a little bit of damage after the incident that we had early on in this green flag run, this most recent green flag run. It's taken the wind out of the 71 just a little bit as Gabriel Storr really starts to flex his muscles and show himself towards the back of that 71, but this is the battle for third place, and it's quite an important one, because if indeed this pass were to happen, then the championship would no longer be clinched by Broström, because Blitz would be outscoring him by enough points. It's quite an important one, this, but still over 120 laps to go. No need for panic at all for anybody just yet, other than maybe Hagman, who's down in 12th.
Here's something to consider. Looking at the point system, was studying this before the race. It's a 10-point difference between second and third. Remember, though, that Broström has also led a lap, which is another 5 points to be able to get scored as well. So in other words, this is a 5-point difference. The panic button would sound if he ends up taking the lead blitzed in this case. So in other words, if Broström wants the championship right now, he cannot afford to see that 95 in the lead itself.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, because that would still be 12 points if indeed they're second and fourth, but that, as you rightly say, the lap led for Broström there is saving him a little bit, and so that is very useful for him, and he'll still be just outscoring him by 12 points, and that is still enough. So we do have a very dynamic championship situation up at the front at the moment. In terms of the teams, Eracing and Broström are comfortably outscoring Blixt and Solo, but we'll try and do the maths on that after the race, to be honest, because there's kind of 4 different equations to be done there, and that just makes things a little bit more tricky. But it is going to be close heading into the final round as well. I don't believe there are drop rounds in the teams championship, although I will have to check that, because that would add another layer of complication to it, all at the very same time as well. But what I can tell you is that Eracing is doing very well. He's got a 1.2 second lead right now over Eric Blitz. Linus Broström just about the same distance behind him, and then Gabriel Storr is keeping him company, currently focusing on Daniel Solo making his way through the traffic and trying to chase down Jonas Gunnarsson for 6th position, as Bertrand Fournier's very disappointing day continues on. He's in the pit lane right now and a couple of laps down, 3 laps down actually by now. There's still 13 cars on the lead lap here in this race. We've had a number of issues for those a bit further down, and so they're they're a lap down, some of them, at this stage in the race, which is a shame to see. But there's still a lot to look forward to in the rest of this race, really. You know, who's going to pit? Is there anybody who's going to pit on lap 100 here and try and split the rest of this race into 3 parts? We're not expecting there to be, and we're not expecting it to be a good strategy to do that either, but somebody just might go for it.
It's a very risky call. Because again, it would have the gamble of it stays green and the fact you feel like you're quick enough to make up the delta of what would be about 40, 50 seconds for that pit stop sequence. You have to consider that as well. So it'd be an absolutely huge call to try and risk that. Let's put it that way. However, who's to say we don't see drivers try and extend the run as far as they can on terms of fuel and try and make sure they stay on the racetrack and keep as many drivers pinned a lap down as possible, because that may be, for some drivers, their big chance to become the leader or in control of the pace if they get that caution flag with an extra tire set at hand. So you have to remember that as well. Here's the thing though, you get a caution from about a couple laps from now. You end up getting into the spot where you might see most of the field take the tire sets, but then it's a bonanza for when you use that third and final set of the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's going to happen if there's a real late race caution as well? Because that could just completely throw all of the paper out of the window entirely as we look at the battle for 8th position between Solander and Adam. They've been going like this for a good few laps at this point and absolutely locked together. And the problem you referenced earlier of not being able to quite get clear is becoming quite prominent as they go into 3 and 4 again. Let's hope that the 140 doesn't actually understeer straight into the 27, and fortunately everybody keeping on their line quite nicely, hugging the yellow line at the bottom there, which is nice to see. And these two just can't get enough of each other at the moment, absolutely locked together. But it looks like maybe now Daniel Adam is going to sweep around the outside and get cleared.
Yes, he does for now, but Solander almost looks like he's fairly quick, or it's the problem of he knows Adam's struggling, especially with that damage. He just can't get the full run. Nearly to the back bumper there this time. Just doesn't seem to have quite the confidence to be able to send it in fully without feeling like he might slide up here. So he's playing this very cautiously to make sure he keeps this car going on the racetrack.
Yeah, nice run once again, but not quite able to use it as Adam is experimenting a little bit, moving a lane upwards on the outside. That was once again very close as he trying to get down the inside. Here is Solander, one of the Alcantech cars on the inside of Adam, and they both sweep upwards actually through 1 and 2, both of them pushing very hard indeed. And you can see one of the lap cars in the background there just getting front row seats to this one. That's not Eric Lundberg who's following them in behind. He's a couple of seconds back at this phase, but he's closing on both of them because of the battling that we're seeing. But maybe now Solander is going to be able to make his way through. Daniel Adam started this battle in front and has been defending for a good 10 laps at this stage, and maybe now finally he's going to have to cede that position to his rival, and he does indeed. That was a very, very difficult pass indeed for Andre Solander, but his patience has eventually persisted, and he has it's come off nicely for him. So he's through now into 8th position, and Daniel Adam, I'm afraid, continues to go backwards in this run as he did in the last one.
Now, I think the main thing is remember that hit with Adam during the commercial break. That's the more hampering, I think, at this point, is the potential aero damage and potentially motor damage from how hard the contact was to safer barrier, because you get down on RPMs, you end up losing that straight line speed, which can really hamper you for the rest of the race. Speaking, though, towards the front, though, these drivers up here have been doing a really solid job of keeping their cars clean. The tough part has been, especially for Johansson, trying to reel in the rest of this gap to have a chance to move up to what will be the biggest moving driver of the race. Would be a +7 if he can pass the 16.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been making some great progress, Johansson, having only joined the league last race at Talladega, making his first appearance with an 8th placed finish. I believe he was caught up in that backstretch incident. I think only 4 to 6 cars actually weren't, maybe 7 cars weren't actually caught up in that one, but one of those actually got a drive-through penalty, and so that really hampered the race. But Johansson, now that things are more within the control of the Ford driver, starting to really show himself here on the on the inside, maybe looking to the outside, then maybe the inside of Gabriel Stoy, who goes steaming up the racetrack. Goodness me, that's the highest line we've seen so far this evening, and it's not quite paid off, although the run is monumental coming down from the banking like that. And the 16 on the outside there, just far too high. I don't think he intended to do that, but it was still a little bit too wide, and Johansson has just walked through the door there, straight down the inside, and it's 4th place for the number 4, making some great strides in this race.
Yeah, Storr just could not get that run he needed to be able to get that top line to work compared to what some of the drivers experienced in eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying series competition earlier this year when it came to the trucks. It almost looks like Storr, though, is fighting a right rear or right front tire being too burned up. He seems to be struggling to turn in and turn off. That's usually the sign where you've burned too much of that tire up, and it forces you to get really tight. Speaking of tight battling, though.
Absolutely. Dominic Sawicki is holding on from Marcus Hagman, or he was until this move here. I'm not entirely sure, because Hagman was caught up in that incident involved with the likes of Allard and Uvenen a little bit earlier on. And he lost a lot of time, but I don't think, by the looks of things, he's picked up much damage. And 11th place, he's on a bit of a comeback charge right now, trying to get as many points as possible, get towards Broström. If indeed Broström finishes where he is right now, then, well, it's pretty much impossible for Hagman to stay within 10 points without actually overtaking him, because of those 5 points for leading a lap. But Hagman right now was one of the earliest to pit. Previously, Gunnarsson and Adam come in now. Lap 100, it seems that we are going to see a couple of drivers splitting this final part of the race into thirds.
Interesting call is what I'm going to say on that one. But it takes a lot of things going right for it to play out. That's all I can really say when it comes to that, as the 98 is also elected to come on in. Robert also coming on in the 82. I don't blame them for trying something different for a lot of these drivers, but again, this is a massive gamble.
Storr and Solo also come in, and I don't blame Gabriel Storr, I've got to say, because if you saw the way he was trying to turn into some of these corners, he could barely get around, to be honest, without the handbrake. So, yeah, he was struggling. Marcus Hagman also comes in. He's been committed to this strategy from quite far out. And so it looks like a lot of these guys are coming in. 6 drivers, 6 or 7 haven't decided to go for this strategy. And when so many decide to go for this, you almost start to wonder whether you are doing the right thing out front. But I think it would be a risk for Eracing to follow these guys. Since he's only got about 20 more laps to go on the set of tyres anyway, he should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's still one stop, technically, if you keep on pushing. So if you want to go for the undercut, yes, it's fine. Realistically, you can still make it on gas from this point too, mind you, believe. But the main thing is going to be as well, do you want to risk losing time if you end up getting the caution? You don't want to end up being pinned. That's going to be the balancing act for a lot of these drivers now. And Johansson, I think, has just said, you know what, I'm 8 seconds back. I'm going to see if I can try and get something to go his way. He's now coming in.
So it leaves Eracing, Blicht, Broström, Lundberg and Allard all out there, but Allard is already a lap down and he's trapped with some of the other guys because of his incident earlier on in the race, which has allowed that to happen. But some of these guys now are going to be very quick indeed. Storr 1.2 seconds quicker than the leader on the last lap. And so there's no doubting the new tyres are going to help them massively in the early part of this. But how is it going to pay out in the long run is the real question. There's still 93 laps to go in this race. Going to the end on this set of tyres is going to be a real problem for them, I would imagine. And when the other guys come in, they're going to see similar kind of benefits with new tyres themselves. So it's a very, very difficult situation for them to be in. But it's very interesting to see that only 4 drivers have gone with what we would call the traditional strategy. And Lundberg, no disrespect to him, but he's a long way off at this point, having been involved in incidents earlier on.
Broström's just elected to go for an undercut himself here.
Wow.
So I think Broström's trying to say, just in case it ends up playing out that possibility of a caution after everyone else comes in for the one stop, I'm thinking he might be trying to say, well, let's go in the in-between route of that to try and balance out the potential of the points. The leader's now coming in too.
The leader, and that has to be and Blicht as well, that has to be to cover Broström, because if they'd have left it too long then they would have got undercut completely. So everybody in after 109 laps in this race. Wasn't expecting to see that at all, and I wasn't expecting the one stop to be the kind of dangerous strategy to be on. But look at Gabriel Storr at the moment. He's through on Broström by an absolute mile. Gunnarsson, Johansson, Solo, they all get through on Broström. Oh my life, this has been a real turn up for the books. As Broström, look at his pit stop time. He's been there for 25 seconds or more. The championship leader is all of a sudden dropping down the order like a stone because his pit stop's 11 seconds longer than it should have been.
Something must have happened in the pit stop sequence because he was in the box. I almost wonder if he got that very, how to phrase this, unfortunate scenario where the crew doesn't pit him, because that's the only thing I can think of.
Not entirely sure. And Broström all the way down, 10th position. He's down behind Hagman all of a sudden, and he's a long way behind Blicht. So just to update you on this order, which is completely, if you turned off 10 minutes ago and you've turned on again now, then you'll be completely wondering what's going on here, and we are as well. So Gabriel Storr is leading this race by a second. Alexander Arvidsson is in second place ahead of Eric Blicht, who's just got through on Jonas Gunnarsson. Kim Johansson is in 5th position ahead of Daniel Solo. Andre Solander 7th ahead of Marcus Hagman, who's climbed up to 8th after all the problems he's had today. We've got Dominic Sawicki in 9th. Broström has found himself all the way down in 10th, and he is on our screen right now trying to get through on Sawicki. But you've seen, even though he's only got 10 laps newer tyres than Sawicki and Hagman, there is still a benefit for him right now. He will be gaining time.
Yeah, they are going to have the much fresher tires by 10 laps in some cases here, so that will add a lot of good pace, short run in particular, to make up for the time lost by at least a few tenths per lap. But here's the problem. That call ended up costing some drivers upwards of 3, 4, 5 seconds for the drivers who are extending it out. I'm still curious about the call itself, but it now puts them into the situation of, will they try and go 90 laps to the end of the tire set to make sure of everything, or will they end up now trying to split 45-45 or so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is the real million-dollar question at this stage, as the two championship rivals, 1 and 2, battling for 8th position. Who would have predicted that at the start of the day? But Linus Broström, after his long pit stop here, has had an absolute nightmare, and Marcus Hagman hasn't had a great day either, and so they're fighting it out for 8th place, but not a lot that the 12 can do there. So Broström back in front again. He needs to outscore Hagman by 10 points and be in the top 7, and neither of those things are quite happening for him at the moment. So we can park the championship talk for a moment, because the talk for the race win is interesting enough. And here is the battle, the 16 versus the 24. They're in traffic right now. Here's Fournier down the inside. He's got to be careful not to get caught up behind him. Storr here. They're side by side. There's contact. There's a bit of contact. He's just about saved it. Arvidsson was trying to get down the inside there. How many times have we seen that today? Pushes up from the bottom into the side of the car on the outside, and it's happened again.
My goodness, absolute craziness when it comes to this. I don't think this is over yet either at this point. Here comes the send again.
Down the inside, and a lot more convincing this time. Arvidsson, second time lucky by the looks of things, and he is through once again. He's been leading so many laps today. He's surely going to get the 5 points for the most laps led. Obviously, Storr will be getting the 5 for having led a few of these laps here, but look in the background as well. Eric Blicht is not too far away, but that was a nice move in the end from the 24. A little bit shaky to start off with a couple of laps ago, but this time, last lap, he'd made a much better job of it.
Absolutely, and there goes that speed showing right there in the 7-lap difference on the tires. The 24's been nearly untouchable throughout this entire race. The question is, will anyone end up bumping into him to become that sort of driver to essentially change up that equation? I've seen it in several cases here where you have a dominant car, you end up making contact with somebody, it ends up changing the whole complexion of the race. Anything can happen at this point as we now take a look at the potential of that swap now for second.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for Eric Blicht here. He's got a fantastic run off of 4, down the inside into 1. Surely it's going to be all his, but he's got to be careful to hug that yellow line on the bottom there, and Storr gives him the room. Blicht returns the room on the exit of 2. and it's a nice battle between the two of them. But there was only ever going to be one winner. The 95 heads in front of the 16, back into second place. So the 1-2 is restored. Blix now just trying to run away from Broster, really, if he can, and try and chase down Arrowson. But judging on what we've seen so far today, I think it's very, very difficult for Eric Blix to do anything.
Yeah, that's just, again, down to the tires there and the raw pace. Blix seems to be very consistent when it comes to his marks right now. I'm curious, though, on a couple of the battles that could be forming up around 4th on back at this rate, because those drivers also seem to be scrapping pretty hard.
Yeah, they certainly do. So Gunnarsson versus Johansson is going on for 4th. 33 versus the 4. And then we've got Daniel Solo trying to get involved. He's a couple of seconds back. You might just be able to see him in the background as a couple of these shots. They've got Uven between them, as these two are trying to pass Fournier, but Andre Solander is not too far behind, and Linus Brostrom as well, on the newest tyres of everybody, is going to be here before long as well. So very interesting battling going on as we're about to get to lap 125. We thought we'd have cars on old tyres out front at this point, but the race has completely taken on a different complexion. Are we going to see drivers coming in 25 laps time though, or is the next time we're going to see them in pit lane after the race? Let's wait and see on that one, because it's going to be a long stretch for some of those who are trying to do 90 laps on tyres, if indeed they do that. And what's going to happen if there's a late race caution as well? Who's going to have the tyres left indeed at that rate? Because everybody in the field right now, to our knowledge, has only got one set of tyres left.
Exactly. And that's going to be the critical thing for a lot of these drivers, will be that decision making on if they elect to pit under green, because you get a caution. Keep on theorizing that, but it's so critical and is so much of a discussion point when it comes to eNASCAR competition. Because if you're left on a restart without fresh tires, you have the potential of tire spin. You leave the potential of getting passed by drivers who kept the set as well. And that's also the thing to think about. Say someone just takes a fuel only on that last stop and says, okay, I'm going to take a gamble, hope I don't get lapped here. You get the caution, they're going to end up pulling away if they can get around some of these drivers for the race. So there's so much you have to think about if you're on the box for a driver, and if you don't have someone on the box for yourself as a driver while you're trying to pass cars here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very difficult situation to be in. From what I know, Force Esports, obviously we can see them in the European E-Racing League Discord at the moment. The 4 of the Force Esports cars in the race right now are chatting together. There doesn't seem to be anybody not in the race in there, which indicates to me that there may well not be anybody crew chiefing for them, unless there is somebody elsewhere connected to them. Personally, which could be a possibility as well. Same situation for Eric Lundberg and also Rickard Allard, who are chatting together as well right now, since they are in the same team. But this battle for 4th is just starting to bubble away ever so slightly. Linus Brostrom a little bit further down has got through on Andre Solander, but Daniel Solo is the man in the background trying to chase down Kim Johansson and Jonas Gunnarsson, who have just exchanged positions, and that looked orchestrated, that one between the two.
Yeah, I think that was just the factor in of, okay, I'm faster, or the driver behind is faster, should say, go on through. Because you don't want to end up holding someone up in that case and making a rival, especially with a couple races to go and with a mile and a half coming up.
Absolutely, yeah. Charlotte Motor Speedway, 3 weeks' time. We're going to be here to broadcast the final part of the European E-Racing League for 2021. It should be a good finale. Let's hope that we do have a championship fight still on. There's definitely going to be one in the team's championship. We know that much. But what about the drivers? Is it going to be Linus Brostrom's day today or not? Is 4th place going to be enough for him? It looks like it might well be, but he's got to get up here first. He's got past Solander. We saw that for 7th place. But he's got to get up to Johansson here and get through on him at the same time, as we have 133 laps complete, very nearly in this race right now. Daniel Solo looking pretty good and closing on Jonas Gunnarsson by the looks of things. The gap is, they're pretty much nose to tail, pretty much bumping each other through 3 and 4 right now.
Yeah, very close when it comes to those respective intervals for a few of those drivers indeed. See, also the 13 has actually just swapped on by. also someone with a little bit fresher tires. Just looks like Gunnarsson is just struggling right now with how his car is handling. He's putting a lot of wheel input, I've noticed, into these corners. Just can't get into the throttle back on corner exit compared to some of the other drivers on similar strategy tires. So he just doesn't seem to have the feel with this track rubbered up, and now there being multiple runs built in on this racetrack. Look towards not just this battle, keep in mind though, this is around for 10th. Look at the interval up in your upper left-hand corner of your screen. Blix is starting to reel on in that 24, who's starting to struggle a little bit now with a long run on the exact same type of stint of tires.
He is a little bit, the gap is certainly closing. It's becoming a battle between just the two of them for the race win here, and it's looking to be an interesting one. This is an interesting fight as well, to be fair. Sawicki and Lundberg side by side. Lundberg keeping it tight on the inside line. Sawicki trying to swing around the outside, and they're going to come together on the exit of 2 into 3 and 4 once again. Is Sawicki going to have the rolling power around the outside here to make it work? Doesn't look like it. Lundberg might just about stay in front here by the looks of things, and indeed he does into 1 and 2, although it's not over yet. He can really roll around the outside quite well here, but not quite well enough for Dominic Sawicki on that occasion.
Yeah, very hard fighting amongst these drivers. This is the battle for the lucky dog, hence some of the importance here in all this, keep in mind. Lundberg has the fresher tires by 7 laps, so I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls away now. But it took a lot of time, and that's partly because the equalization when you are grouped together in some of these circumstances, hence the difficulty to pass here at Richmond.
Certainly can be, as Linus Broström might be about to experience. He's on the back of Jonas Gunnarsson for 6th position in this race. Daniel Solo has recently got through on the 33. We saw that a couple of moments ago. But Broström really starting to make strides forward, and here he is, the championship leader, looking to get 4th position, which would clinch the championship here today, unless Eric Blick gets to the lead. It's all still up in the air, but the 71 is going to head to the outside line already and get the run on the exit. Doesn't look like Jonas Gunnarsson is going to be able to do anything here once again, because only a few laps ago he was in 4th place, and he's really starting to struggle.
Yeah, his car has fallen off a cliff. Keep in mind, Hagman has elected to go for that extra stop strategy after 37 laps. So there is the window open for those who may try and burn that final set of tires, and hoping there's no more cautions.
Absolutely. It's an awkward place to be for Marcus Hagman right now. Johansson on the back of Gabriel Storr as well. 3rd place even looking on the horizon for Broström, but is this stint going to end just a little bit too early for him? And who's going to try and get to the end of this race? Are we going to see them in about 13, 14 laps time, or are we going to see them coming to the end of this race or not? Kim Johansson looks like he's going to get through on Gabriel Storr by the looks of things for 3rd place. The number 4 cost continuing to make great strides. Free wide move with Marcus Hagman trying to get through on the ball on these new tyres.
Very dangerous move there, but when you gotta go, I guess is the best way to put it. Hagman saying, I've got to push.
Absolutely he is, with 155 laps nearly to go. He's got to go now. He's going to be feeling the effects of this a little bit later on, but he's going to go very, very quickly at this stage in the race. Still, Alexander Aronson leading this one, 1.4 seconds. It's kind of holding with Eric Blicht trying to chase him down. A good 9 seconds back to Johansson and Storr, who's falling backwards as Broström is trying to get up to Solo. It's not only a Drivers' Championship battle there, but also for the teams. It will be very helpful for the 71 to get through.
It would be, but it's still going to be an intriguing final part of this race, especially with how that race lead battle is faring, but also the difficulty with traffic management. That's going to be a big part, I think, of this fight.
It certainly is. There's a lot of traffic out there. Still 16 of the 16 cars are in the race, which we do indeed like to see. Alexander Aronson is leading here at Richmond. We've got just over 50 laps to go in this race. One final quick commercial break before the end of this race coming right up, but we'll be back in a couple of moments' time with the finale of this event. Welcome back to Richmond, where this race has just completely turned on its head. Daniel Solo brings out the, his second caution of the race, the third of the day, and we've got almost everybody into the pit lane. This is how it happened, coming off of turn 2. I believe completely on its own. The old tyres starting to take effect, and into the barriers he went, I'm afraid. The 13 making his way back onto the circuit, and yeah, it was pit stops for everybody by the looks of things. The 24 is going to get out in front of everybody else by the looks of things, but just in this race is completely changed now. Anybody who was trying to go to the end is obviously not going to now, and Marcus Hagman is in a lot of trouble.
He absolutely is, because he is now several laps down as a result of that strategy. He's going to be essentially boxed on into his situation of needing a wave. He's pinned one lap. He needs another caution flag. Here's the problem. Now with this caution, this is also the worst scenario. He will also be on much older tires by at least 8-10 laps of green flag racing. You do not want to end up having that happen as a driver. And here's another thing to think about too. Eric Lundberg, believe he was that lucky dog driver, and as a result of all that strategy changing, he may end up having an interesting situation of saying, does he risk not taking tires and hoping he gets a caution to be the fastest car on the track for the end of the race? There's so many factors that can outplay on in here for some of these competitors, as I think Lundberg's going to say, you know what, I'm just going to go and take the tires.
Oh, that is a shame. I was hoping somebody was going to try and stay on the lead lap here and hope for a caution, because it would be a slam dunk win for anybody who can stay on the lead lap with the new set of tyres. Solander and Lundberg are indeed into the pit lane then, I'm afraid, and they're going to be making their pit stop. Just look like Daniel Solo stayed out. He looks like he's still on the lead lap. And
yep, that's a wave.
So he's got, I presume he's got another set of tyres, but I presume there's also damage on that car since he's just been into the wall, and it wasn't a soft impact exactly either.
Yeah, he's got significant damage, and he's now in the situation where if he wants to have a shot here, he essentially needs a lot to happen, and it doesn't involve him.
Yes. He does need things to go his way, I think it's fair to say. He's the final car on the lead lap. 9 cars are do indeed take that, as Solander's still in the pit lane by the looks of it. He's gone round again here, Solo, so he's still out there, but either way, as a number of cars go past the pit lane and the guys, past the pace car, and we get ready 2 by 2 here once again. So, very complicated situation. We've got cars everywhere, to be honest, but it's Arulton, Blitz, Storr, Johansson, Broström, Gunnarsson, Lundberg and Solander who are the top 8 at the moment, with Solo also on the lead lap, but with that damage and old tyres, he's going to be falling away quite quickly on this restart. For the 4th time today, Arulton is going to be in control of this field. It's been complete domination from the 24 here today. We'll see if he can continue on with that at the moment as they come out of turn 4 and take the green flag once again. Not many laps remaining. The gloves are going to be off here. Arulton is going to have some defending to do, you can be sure. We have not got long to go in this one. It's going to be a dash to the flag.
Arulton with our great launch, but Storr having to play with a lot of traffic. That caution flag, if anything, really helped Broström's case with how much time he lost as a result of that pit stop situation under green. Look at that send.
Down the... Oh, it's very close. Gabriel Storr's already been in that situation once before, and he doesn't want to be there again. Hung out on the outside, the two of them locked together, door to door, out of turn 2, and into 3 and 4 they go. Nicely done from Broström to get in front and stay in front by the looks of things on the 16 car there. We saw Gunnarsson trying to get involved but not able to. At the moment, he's in championship clinching position as long as Eric Blix stays where he is.
Yeah, and that's even then very tight in that point situation right now. I think to be safe, you want to pass by the number 4 right now. You need to catch up. Johansson passed by Kim's car. Be able to be right behind Blix, be in control of your own destiny at this point.
Absolutely, yeah. It is right on the bubble. He needs to be in the top 7. Make sure that he outscores Hagman by 10 points. He's absolutely doing that right now. And make sure that Blitz doesn't outscore him by more than 12 points. Well, at the moment, it is exactly 12. So he's right on the cusp of clinching this one here this afternoon. Let's see if he can do it. 40 laps to go at the line, but still a long way, really, for them to be racing. A good 15 minutes for him to hold on. And there's not exactly slow cars behind him at the moment, Brostrom. He's going to have pressure from behind, from the likes of the 16.
Yeah, and that's if Storr has been able to figure out his issues with that right front tire burning too quickly the past couple runs. If he can improve the pace, he might be able to be the thorn in Brostrom's side at this point. Both of them got really loose over the bump in turn 2.
Absolutely, we've seen him fall off quite dramatically, Storr. So, can he keep things under control this time around? We've got 40 laps to find out, I guess. Not the longest green flag run, but it's also long enough for things like that to develop. It's been the kind of the normal stint length for these guys, rather surprisingly, throughout this race. And so, nothing out of the ordinary for them. No tyres left for any of them. Even if there is a caution, there's not going to be any pitting from anybody other than Daniel Solo, but he's already struggling to stay on the lead lap. He's half a lap down already. I'd be very impressed if he can stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, he'll need that caution in about 10 laps at the latest, because right now that pace is just not there right now for Solo. 1 second be off the pace at least compared to the drivers on fresher tires. But that's the gamble you have to play, right, in some circumstances. In this type of scenario, if you've got the fresher tire set by 20 plus laps, there's a good chance we see that 13th line. But the problem is he needs someone to make a mistake.
Yeah, he absolutely does, and it can't be him. Once again, he's already brought out a couple of cautions here this afternoon, so he won't want to be bringing out another one. His teammate Eric Blix is looking to try and win this race, because that would save his championship at this stage. If he was to win this one in the 95, there's absolutely nothing that Linus Brostrom can do in that 71 car to keep this championship from going to Charlotte in 3 weeks' time. It will go the distance if Blix wins this race because of the points system, which I have to say I'm a big fan of, by the way. And it's producing a good championship fight right until the very end as things stand. Second place, applying the pressure to Arrowton, but he's been absolutely immovable so far in that 24.
Yeah, he's led all but 10 laps so far. 8 went to Storr, based a bit on the strategy. Brostrom with the 1. It's just been that type of a night for the number 24 machine so far in terms of that pace. But this run has been much more different, I've noticed. He's not been trying to break away and run away from the pack. He's been, if anything, trying to go a little bit more conservative to make sure he doesn't overexert the tires in case there's a restart, as there's some trouble.
Nearly some trouble into turn 1 and 2. Brostrom just backs out of that move. Kim Johansson was on the defensive there and in the end decided to back out. It was a smarter choice. It's opened up a bit of a gap to the front 2, but Brostrom is starting to get a little bit agitated and wants to get through, as you say, kind of making sure of this championship situation by getting into 3rd. Johansson was not letting that happen into 1 and 2 last time around.
Yeah, it looks like he wants this top 3 run for him. He's been looking consistent. He's been looking very strong and solid. Seen him race very well in stock cars in the past as well on the service, so he's showing that raw pace in this field today. At this point, it looks like he does not want to give up anything for anything. Speaking of the traffic, by the way, Denny's strategy just went bust.
It did indeed. Daniel Solo hangs wide. And there's nothing that he can do from going a lap down. Now that we're fully into the traffic, there is going to be some traffic interference throughout the final 30 laps here. And are they going to influence any of these battles? We hope not. But obviously they've got to go somewhere. And it's difficult to negotiate them sometimes around a circuit like Richmond as we complete another lap. 29 to go as things stand. And Blix still applying the pressure as this battle for 3rd just starts to stretch out ever so slightly over the last couple of laps. It's not too, not as close as it was. Blix also not quite as close as he has been over the last couple of laps either. There's a couple of car lengths opening up there.
Yeah, I think now he's starting to realize, okay, it's looking like I might need to stretch this out. Be a little bit more harder on these corner exits to be able to extend this out in case Blix gets close enough. But here's the thing, Blix is driving the best he's driven all race, in my opinion. He's matching the lap times, if not getting better lap times a couple times over the past little while. Their average separate over the past 5 laps by 5/1000ths of a second.
They are exceptionally close as things stand, but I agree, this is Blick's best run of the day in the 95, and it needs to be, because at the moment, the championship is not going his way. Even if he gets side by side and just leads a lap, Aronson gets back into the lead. That will be enough in the present situation. Obviously, Broström getting through on Johansson would change that, but even so, just leading one singular lap here for the 95 would be enough as things stand, but you never know what's going to happen behind. Johansson, all of a sudden, coming under more pressure as the gap is opening up to the front two.
That's still separated by 3/10 or so currently, give or take. Blix now is the closest he's been right now, and this is now going to be the thing. You see the difference in the lines too. Blix, I think, has found something. Using the banking off of turn 2 in particular as a ramp, cost him a little bit of time on entry apex, but gains it all back. Couple 100s more so by corner exit. Blix just found something that's got him that extra pace now.
He absolutely has, and I feel like Aronson was trying to kind of replicate that a little bit going into 3 and 4 that last time, but he didn't quite nail it as Blicht has been doing, and once again it's a nice 1 and 2 from Blicht, and he gains a little bit of time down the back straight. Daniel Solo, by the way, it finally bites the bullet and comes into the pit lane. Hardly surprising to see because of the way he has been going over the last few moments, but this battle for the race lead is getting very, very exciting indeed. It can't be long before the gloves come off and there's going to be some interest between the two of them. Solo is going to get out of the way, or is he? Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh!
Tries to get into the back of Aronson. I think, well, he's got new tyres on actually. That would be why he's diving so deep into the corners, won't it? Because he's just put some new tyres on now. Getting through on Aronson is going to be a difficult prospect, and this is not where the 24 wants to be at all. Going side by side with a teammate as a caution comes out. Daniel Solo will be very glad he got through there because he's 1 lap less down, quite possibly. Or is he? Not entirely sure.
If anything, Daniel is now going to be 3 laps down. Here's the reason for the caution. Wow.
Fournier into the back of Sawicki, and that was a big hit for Dominic Sawicki. So there's no tyres for anybody here, basically.
Exactly. So wouldn't be surprised if everybody stays out here.
It looks like it. Let's see, though, because we're about to see everybody in the pit lane. It just looked like Fournier getting into the back of Sawicki there, and it was quite a hard hit in the end.
Yeah, it just almost looked like an overcorrection. If anything, the second he hit had the contact, felt the slide, started bobbling right, boom, spun it on around as... Bit of trickery there, almost driving to the wall.
Well,
don't do that.
I don't think he was tricking anybody there, considering they've got no tyres left, but either way, Aronson doing what he can to try and fool the rest. As you predicted, though, absolutely nobody is coming into the pit lane. Interestingly, that is Marcus Hagman making his way around the outside. All of a sudden, he is back on the lead lap in 9th place. Maybe there is some hope for him yet.
He has the oldest tires out of anybody on the track still. Keep in mind, though, I could still see him pick up a couple positions, but I don't see him getting back to where he was running fully before, if you get what I mean, because of the older tires.
Yeah, I agree. And with Broström running up in 4th place at the moment, he really needs to be beating Broström, given the amount of points difference or the amount of points you gain for a position when you get that high up. 10 points is not that difficult to come by, really, so he does need to gain quite substantially. But you never know what can happen on this restart. There's only 19 laps to go here, and we're going to be going green very shortly. As into the pit lane comes Fournier and Sawicki. They're both repairing damage, you'd imagine. This race is absolutely going to be on here, but Aronson has done this so many times before from the front. What can Blick do on this restart? He was working on the back of that 24 for an entire 30 laps there. He might feel like all his work has been undone by this caution, but I still think he's got a shot here.
He definitely does. He needs to be, first of all, I think, in sync for the start. Time it up perfectly, be able to guess where that restart's going to come. Because if he ends up being even a half a millisecond late, we've seen it where that jump is so massive that the drivers on the bottom line can clear them by entering turn 1. If Plixt wants the real shot, he needs to keep it side by side, pinch on down the driver to his inside, that being Alexander's car, and then get the run off the corner, keep it side by side, take the lead by the exit of turn 4. That's the best way to try and put it. If that doesn't work out, he needs to get to the bottom immediately, and then try and find a way to take away that preferred line from the 24. You could also, in turn, get to the physical part of it to potentially use a bit of the bumpers, but here's the thought of that too. Do you want to try and keep your championship hopes alive by moving the guy who's led almost the entire race?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult conundrum at this stage. Looks like we're going to go green with 16 laps remaining. It's not going to quite be this time, but I think they're going to go 2 by 2 at the end of this because the lap cards have just been filtered out of the way. Also, Linus Brostrom here has got a real opportunity because, you know, there's not a lot he can do if Blix wins, but if he's only second place, then Brostrom has got a good chance of getting through here on Kim Johansson, who he's found difficult to overtake so far. So maybe there's an opportunity here for Brostrom as well.
I think absolutely there is right now, because if they get the timing up right on that second line in particular, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to pass on by, if not completes the pass on Johansson. Then it's game on for the battle for second, if anything.
It is absolutely game on. So 16 laps to go here at Richmond. And is it going to be the final one in terms of this Drivers' Championship being alive? Is Brostrom going to be clinching it here at the end of those laps? Or is Blix going to take this further? We go green once again. The green flag is in the air. Blix has not had a fantastic restart there. It's Alexander Aronson who's going to take the lead into 1 and 2 once again. Linus Brostrom on the outside line trying to make that one work on Kimi Hansen, who he's been really struggling to get through on so far. But this time maybe outside line on the number 4 there, the 71, trying to make it work, and it's going to be a good run off of 4 here down the front straight. There's possibility into 1 and 2. This is stacking up the field behind as well as they race into 1 and 2 once again, absolutely locked together.
Brostrom's doing a really good job controlling the potential of the tire spin right now in this battle for third position, trying to force Johansson to lift hard off the gas right there.
Oh.
See that little wiggle? Forces him off the gas, loses the momentum. Brostrom with a better run.
Nice run around the outside there, and the 4 trying to keep it on the inside and make sure it doesn't run into the door. Side by side behind as well between Storr and Gunnarsson by the looks of things. Or is that a lap car? Quite possibly it could be of Daniel Solo. It is Daniel Solo because he's got new tyres on and a whole load of ambition at the moment. So side by side behind, but it doesn't really matter too much. Storr decides to get out of the way of that because he doesn't want any part of it at all. Solo trying to get through without disrupting everybody else is a very difficult task for him at the moment.
Especially since he's several laps down. He's got the freshest tires in the field, but at the same time, do you want to end up getting involved with the leaders to the point of contact? The answer is obviously no. That's the dangerous part for Daniel, is you do not want to be that guy who has the impact for the championship.
Absolutely, as Brostrom is still on the outside, they're still fighting it out, the 4 versus the 71. This arguably doesn't matter too much for the championship, but it does keep Brostrom more safe, being in third place with regards to being 4th. Johan Hansen with not a good run off of 4 that time. And finally, the position goes Brostrom's way. Now it's up to the 95. With only 10 laps to go, he needs to win this race.
Really solid pass there, and really solid movement as now some of the drivers are starting to make some moves. Some big mistakes starting to pop up for Storr, though. He's really struggling under brakes now.
Zalander through, and that is important for the team's championship because Zalander is a scoring driver for the Alcantech NHR team, and so he needs to get as many points as possible, and he's just gained another 5 with that move on Gabriel Storr. Aronson and Brostrom being first and third at the moment is obviously better for those guys, but every point is going to count at this stage in the team's championship. Caution flag is out once again. Gunnarsson is the one who's gone around, and we're going to have a dash of a few laps towards the end of this race.
And that may open up the door for a bump off through the corner to battle for this race lead. That could change things up a lot, let's put it that way. But the reason for the contact and the caution, turn 3 bites again, and the number 6 involved again.
Yeah, Fournier, after getting tipped around himself earlier on in this race, he's been tipping around a couple of others, I'm afraid, in the latter portions. So there's only going to be a few laps to go here, and you can be sure Blicht is going to want to get through, obviously, because the championship is on the line, or at least keeping it alive is on the line. So what is he willing to do? My concern is it takes him quite a long time to kind of build up and get close to Arudson, and he's not going to have time in this race anymore. He's not going to have the time at all.
He cannot afford to allow that 24 to get away by more than 3/10 at the max to be able to have a realistic shot, in my opinion. Because it seems like Blixt has good speed for laps 2 through 5 when he's absolutely 100%, 150% if anything, pushing on those tires and leaning on them. Then he started to drop back as they were fighting hard for that third spot. I was keeping a close eye on that lead fight. If Blixt wants the realistic chance here, he needs to basically be right on the bumper. Basically, do not allow Alexander any breathing room. Pressurize him, almost use the intimidator button of sorts.
He needs to use everything he can at this stage, and even then, it's hard to see Arudson not winning this race. He's led so many laps today, only 9, you said earlier, that he's not led in this 200 lap race so far. Well, it's going to be 200, so a staggering amount of laps led. Obviously the 5 points are going to go to him, and that's a really secondary thought to him at this stage. He just wants to win this one. Eric Blicht, if you remember, he has had a second place in this championship before. He's had a number of strong runs, of course, because he can't get up towards the front in a championship without having strong runs. He got second place back at the very first race at Michigan, despite leading the most laps of everybody in the field. He got second place at Las Vegas as well. This is going to be by far the most heartbreaking second place, though, if indeed he's going to come home in this particular position. He needs to take his first win of the season. It cannot be his second of the season, or it's going to be over, and Broström is going to be crowned champion in 5 laps' time. He cannot afford that.
And I think this is all going to come down into the thought process of temperament as well. Do you, as a driver, want to move someone or risk turning them around for the race win? Because realistically, that can vary from person to person, obviously. Do you want to be known as that guy who did this, or that person who did that? That you have to consider, especially with how this could play out here at a track like Richmond with 4 to go for the restart.
Yeah, absolutely. There are going to be 4 laps, barely 90 seconds of racing. Barely 90 seconds for Eric Blicht to get through here on Alexander Arudson, who's put in a quite dominant performance, but is it going to be a race win by the end of it? Blicht hasn't even led a lap here today, despite the fact he spent most of the race in second place. That's how dominant the 24 car has been. This is the 5th time today that he's going to be starting either a restart or a race start from the front of the field. You can see him just angling the car upwards to sweep down on the banking and get the best run possible. Blicht needs to do better than he has on previous restarts, and he's not done too badly here. Broström, although, has got a good restart as well. That is going to be a problem for the 95 car. He dives to the inside, makes sure Broström cannot get through on him, and that was a good choice in the end from Eric Blicht. He has been able to hold off Broström, but Arudson has absolutely gone here.
Hardest he's been able to launch off of these past couple restarts. But for Blixt, he did time that up really well to be able to take away that preferred line from Broström. Try and keep him behind him at this point with a couple laps to work with.
At the moment, it's not enough. Broström will
behind.
still be... We've got a slide behind for Salander. That's important for the team's championship, but everybody stays facing the right way, fortunately, and we're going to stay green, it looks like, for the final couple of laps of this race. 200 around here at Richmond. 4/10 of a second. Blicht is not close enough. He's not getting pressured from behind with Broström, fortunately for him, but he's not close enough at the moment.
I think Alexander's got the great chance to come away with this victory. No one's been able to keep up with him much of this race. White flag is out. Final lap.
One more time around for Alexander Arudson, who has led almost every lap. 191 if he can hold on here. Eric Blicht has done all he can He's within 4 tenths at the moment. He's been following this 24 car the entire day, but it looks like it's not going to be his. Alexander Arutin out of the final corner, and a dominant display ends in victory at Richmond for him, but behind in 3rd place. Linus Brostrom, with still 1 round to go, is going to clinch the 2021 European E-Racing League in a dominant display of driving from him as well. Brostrom has had a fantastic year, of course, and the fireworks set off at the end of the race. A great performance from him all year, but a great performance from Arutin, first of all, to win this race quite dominantly.
Absolutely had the pace right from the get-go tonight. Showed it from the drop of the green flag, pulled away by as much as 4 seconds in green flag conditions. He just had this place figured out with this car to a T. He was near impossible to touch tonight.
And 191 laps led for him. It's at less than 4 tenths in the end, but it was enough over Eric Blicht, who 2nd place wasn't quite enough. Linus Brostrom is your 2021 champion from 3rd position. Kim Johansson, with only his 2nd performance of the season, in 4th. Gabriel Storr gets another top 5. As Marcus Hagman's 6th place, not enough to hang on to this championship contention either. Eric Lundberg's 7th position ahead of Andre Solander, with his late trials and tribulations on the final restart. Jonas Gunnarsson, the final car on the lead lap, in 9th, ahead of Tony Ubernen, the first car, 1 lap down in 10th. Moving on down to the guys a little bit further away, Ricard Allard was 11th ahead of Daniel Solo, who was involved in a couple of cautions, I think it's fair to say. Robert Erling 13th ahead of Bertrand Fourniret 14th. Daniel Adam finished 6 laps down in the end, and Dominic Sawicki wasn't able to finish this race, I'm afraid, after he got spun around by Fourniret not too long ago. Well, that is it then for the 200 laps here at Richmond. A very exciting race from start to finish here in this one. But in the end, there was only ever going to be one winner. It's Alexander Arutin who's taken this one ahead of Eric Blicht. Linus Brostrom is your 2021 European E-Racing League champion. A big congratulations to him, because with 1 round to go, he cannot be caught. We'll be back in a few weeks' time at the Charlotte Motorsports Speedway for one final hurrah in this championship, where the teams will be fighting this one out. From me, Johan O'Leary and Justin Prince, it's going to be goodbye for now, but make sure you stay with us. It's the post-race show coming up here in the European E-Racing League. Stay with us.
Thank you, Evan and Justin, for guiding us through this amazing race at Richmond Raceway. And with us right now, we have the 2021 European E-Racing champion, Linus Brostrom. Linus, how do you feel right now?
It feels kind of amazing. I mean, obviously the field wasn't the biggest, but it's a very big relief to have it done even before the final race, if my calculations are right anyway, and it looks like that. So yeah, it's just a massive relief to win the first season of the European E-Racing League and to get another championship, so to speak. And the race was pretty good actually all the way through. A couple more cautions than I would have hoped for, obviously, but everybody seemed to run the same strategy, and I was obviously the third fastest today. So massive congratulations to Alex on his win as well, making it 5 in a row for Force.
You qualified in second, and then you had a little bit of issue on the pit road. Talk us through what happened there.
Well, I had everything ticked, tires and fuel, and then I stopped in my box, and they just said go straight away. So it took me a couple of seconds to realize what was going on. I took my tire window up and ticked in the tires again and the fuel, and then they changed the tires and put in the fuel, and then when that was done they said go, and then they held me for another 2 seconds again. So I don't know what happened there, but thankfully I was able to overcome that with those couple of cautions that we got. So it could have made it interesting going into Charlotte for the championship, but thankfully I was able to bounce back from that, so it's good.
On the way back, you had a lot of fights, one with Kim Johansson, and it looked like that you gave up on that fight after a while.
Well, I tried to hold it around the outside, and eventually I actually managed to pass him right before that caution came out, but I was considering backing out at one point, but then he got a bad exit, and I got run back on the outside, but it took me, 8 or 9 laps to get by him, so it was really fun to be racing with him there for that long. And then all the battles coming up through the field earlier there was just a matter of holding my pace and catching up to people and taking the runs when I got them, and just had to be super patient. But thankfully that last caution, or the last couple of cautions, came out and worked in my favor, so that was obviously beneficial for me in this case.
Talk us through a little bit of your season here in the European E-Racing League. I mean, in the beginning it looked like that you had quite a challenge from the Alcantech team, and but now you're sitting here with 1 race to go and you're the champion. How did you get in this position?
Well, we didn't start out very well. Qualified up front at Michigan, I think, and had I think it was the pit strategy that played wrong or something. We just didn't do well, and I finished like 10th or something. And Alcantech obviously had a great race, so I thought it was going to be a very tough season. And then I came back at Nashville with a 3rd place finish, and then Phoenix didn't go as planned, but still decent points. And then from then I've been 1st, 2nd, 1st, and now 3rd. So I mean, 5 top 3s out of 7 races and 7 straight top 10s. Pretty much the same as I had almost in the first season of the Swedish E-Racing League, when I had 8 top 5s and won the championship. So it's just all about consistency, and even without the drop week I still would have had the lead, but with my drop week being a 10th place finish, that's obviously very good. So you've always got points to lean back on, and that's obviously what's made me secure this as well, because at worst I'll get points for a 10th place finish with a lead lap at Charlotte, and that gives me enough points that nobody can catch me. So obviously 7 decent results is the reason why I'm here right now.
Talking about Charlotte, that's the next race. You've already secured a championship. Are you gonna race the Charlotte race, or are you just gonna show up, and what's your plan for that race?
Well, it would obviously be fun to join RaceBot and commentate on that race instead, but we still got a team championship to fight for, and I want to help my teammates out as much as I can, and obviously always want to win when you do one of these races. So getting a hat-trick this season would be perfect, and even though Alex and I scored more points than the Alcantech boys did today, we obviously still have that fight to take to them. So we still got to score some decent points, especially since there's no drop weight there. I don't have that to lean back on in that championship. So I pretty much have to race, because there's only the 2 of us versus the 3 of them. So if I leave Alex alone out there, Alcantech's probably going to get that. But it would be nice to score that championship as well.
The team championship is the next objective for Linus Broström. Congratulations, our 2021 champion in the European E-Racing League for Force Esports. Is there anybody or anyone that you want to thank before we carry on?
First of all, Battle Riff and Kappa Bar obviously are sponsors, and then since I'm here and I won the championship, I think I can afford to shout out my Swedish Eracing sponsor, Cooler Master, as well. Obviously a great partner of the series as well. They're not on my car here, but they are in the Swedish Eracing League, and it's always fun working with them. And then Racebot and you guys for putting on the show as always. I know all the work that goes into it, so it's great that you're able to put on the whole series and the broadcast and everything. And then Alex for the win today, Marcus for being a great teammate, and Robert as well. Race didn't go to plan for him. Shout out to Eric Blix for a good race today as well in second place, and then Kim for that battle at the end as well. So just everybody involved pretty much.
Pretty much everybody involved. Thank you, Linus, and congratulations. Go celebrate now, and we will continue with our broadcast. Next up, we'll talk with Eric Blixt in a minute. Of course, and obviously a very happy and well-worn Linus Brostrom after this race. A lot of nerves comes in when you fight for a championship.
Yep.
And fighting for a championship, Eric Blixt that have been in the lead for this championship in the beginning and in the middle of this season. And we have him with us. Hi Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Pretty good?
Decent finish, yeah.
Second place is decent. I'd say it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
Linus does secure the championship here tonight with that third place finish. Talk us through how you planned up your race to defend your chances to win the championship tonight.
I mean, it's pretty much just salvage after the last race. I can't remember the last race, but the Super Speedway one we did. Yeah, salvage point for that and try to finish as good as we can. Yeah, take every point we can.
Every point counts, and a rough day for your teammate Daniel Sola, obviously. Solander does a kind of good race, I'd say. That keeps the team championship on the line still at Charlotte. Rostrom talked a little bit about that, and that was the next objective for him. And how are you going to shoot down that plane, so to speak?
Well, it's pretty much the same strategy. Just try to just take as much points as we can from them and see what happens. We're not gonna force anything out of it, so yeah, we'll see what happens.
What is your plan for this race tonight? I saw you being quite fast in the beginning, but in the end of the race you were probably fastest on the track.
Yeah, I mean, I hoped for, like, the last run was a good run on the tires, so if we would have gone green, I would have probably stayed on his bumper and forced out a mistake from him. He did one mistake in the restart, but then we got to a caution and chopped the race down to 3 laps to the finish. So yeah, can't really put the car in there without risking spinning out, so yeah, had to take it as it came to me.
Was there anything that you changed in your driving style at the last stints compared to it in the beginning of the race?
The first stint was pretty good, even though it was short. The middle one, when I was behind Linus, I probably drove the wrong lines and scrubbed the front tires a bit too much. So I just knew for the last stint to take care more of the tires, make sure to really smooth out the turns and don't chop them off. And yeah, that worked out pretty good, and I think I had better tires than Alex, and I would have looked forward to a long run to the finish, but yeah, it got chopped off there in the end.
Got dropped off short. Is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on this broadcast?
I would like to thank Alex Jönsson. I forgot to start my spotter, so he had to jump in and spot for me. So yeah, and then it's the sponsors, SimLab, Alcantech, Nima Racing, and all my teammates. Of course, making it all more fun to drive, having a good company.
Of course it does. It's a nice crowd that you're hanging around me. Tell Alex I said hi.
I will.
Congratulations on your second place tonight, Eric, and good luck on the next race at Charlotte.
Thanks.
Eric Blix finishes on the second position here tonight. A solid run for him all day long. He was fast in the last stints, where he had the possibility to challenge Alexander Arlsson. Arlsson, who was in the lead for every lap except of 9. and I believe we have him with us right now. Alexander, are you with us?
I am, yeah.
Congratulations on your win tonight. 191 laps in the lead, including the last lap. Congratulations on this finish.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it feels great to get the not weekend sweep, but week sweep this time done. So that's great.
Every race at Richmond in our different leagues, you've been ending up on top. Prince said that the number 24 has been untouchable today, and I can't agree more with him. Talk us through. You led in the start, and obviously the most laps where you were at the track, but not after the pit stop, of course. How did you plan out the race?
Well, to start off with, managed to qualify on pole today, which I felt was important to do, to be able to control the race from there on, which I felt like I was able to do, as I got a good launch on the initial start, and then pull away to a comfortable lead, and obviously then we had a couple of cautions which bunched the field up, but I got good launches off the restarts each time, and managed to hold mainly Eric after. So yeah, it went pretty well.
Eric seemed to be quite fast in the last two stints. How did you feel when he was closing up in your rear mirror?
Yeah, it felt like he had much better long run speed today compared to the last race in the Swedish league on Thursday. But I think it felt like we had pretty even long run speed in that. I think I could have, if he did catch me there at the end, I think I would have been able to get a few more hundreds or maybe a tenth or so of time compared to him. So I think I would have been able to hold him off there.
So, taking this race as a whole, what made you win today? What preparations, what strategy, and so on?
Well, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I think I've just got this track figured out, really, how to get around it the best way, obviously, and save tires. I think that's the key thing, especially with this car and with this setup that we've got in the fixed setup. It's all about saving those tires, the right front tires, and I think that's what I did the best.
To use Evan's word at RaceBot, complete domination for you here today. Is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on?
Yeah, I want to thank my sponsor Battle Riff and my whole team at Force Esports, and I also want to obviously congratulate my teammate Linus on his championship. Very well done.
Very well done to you too, and good luck on Charlotte in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Alexander Arlsson, complete domination with 191 laps in the lead out of 200. He started on pole, he finished first tonight. Quite a bad day for Daniel Solo. He didn't really qualify that well. He spun around, we saw him there, and was in two cautions tonight, and that put him in a bad position for the rest of this championship, unfortunately. Fortunate for Linus Broström, he is our champion tonight for Force Esports, but the team's championship carries on. It's the duel between Alkentech NHR by Neiman Racing and Force Esports, and we will be following that through. Before we end this broadcast, I want to do an honorable mention to Kim Johansson for his race tonight. He had been really fast, up in the top 3, top 4 all night, and had a great mid-run speed, at least. Short run speed, yes, mid-run speed also. He struggled a little bit on the longest runs tonight, but in the mid-range runs, he was really fast, and there's something coming up for him in the future, I think. He's taking the steps in the right direction, at least. And with that being said, our champion for the Drivers' Champion is crowned, and his name is Linus Broström. He competes for Force Esports, but the team's championship is not over yet. So tune in 3 weeks on the Sunday at 5 p.m. and we will see what happens in our season finale at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thank you for tonight.